All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday, and it's time. It's time to start going deep into these draft prospects. I've accumulated as much data as I can about relevant draft prospects to the Seahawks, and now it's time to start breaking them down one by one, position by position, need by need, BPA by BPA, however you want to put it. It's time. And today we are going to be starting with, in my opinion, just taking out of the equation the relative importance of each position, probably the most needy position on the team. We're starting with nose tackle. So, just real quick to run it down here. Nose tackle right now, we've got Al Woods and Bryan Mone. Al Woods is a couple days away from turning 36 years old. He did take a year off a couple years ago, which helps, but he's still 36. Last year, he played something like 26, 27 snaps per game on average. He got hurt near the end of the year, and it kept him out for, I believe, almost a month. And overall, clearly was not as effective as he's been in recent years. And that's at least partially reflected in the fact that our run defense was so bad. So, Al Woods, in this day and age, definitely should not be starting. At 36 years old, with the mileage on his body, even with that year off, he should not be starting in the NFL at this point. That's a recipe for disaster. Bryan Mone, we don't even know if he's going to be healthy for week one. In fact, he probably won't be. For all we know, he's not going to be healthy until 2024. That's possible. He got hurt late in the year last year. So Bryan Mone, I don't know if we're expecting anything from him. Oh, and by the way, while we're here, when Bryan Mone's healthy, he's still not very good. He flashes every now and then, and I do mean every now and then, but we can't expect him to be part of anything good. The only reason why he's still here is probably because he got hurt. If he didn't get hurt, we probably would have just released him. That ACL tear may come back to haunt us in more ways than one. So, the way I see it right now, hey, I would love to just flush the nose tackle situation completely. Al Woods can retire, Mone goes, and then we just bring in two new nose tackles, or however you want to handle it. But as of right now, I think what's going to happen is Mone's going to miss a good chunk of the season. Al Woods will be hopefully relegated to the backup role, playing no more than 20 snaps a game, and then we need to find some guys to fill in the gap, and it's a pretty big gap. So at the very least, we're going to need a stud nose tackle going forward. So the first guy we're going to talk about here is the best nose tackle in this draft, and I might spend the whole rest of this video just talking about him, because I think this is very important that we really hone in on what Mazi Smith is and whether or not we desire him. So I have a bunch of data here. This is a bunch of like factual data, pretty concrete stuff. The big board information fluctuates from day to day, obviously, but as of a few days ago, this was all accurate. So Mazi Smith, Michigan Wolverine, he will be 22 years old when the season starts. So relatively young. He measured out at 6'3", 323 pounds, so nice and big, totally workable for a zero tech. His arm length was real nice, 33 3/4 inches, which was longer than expected, and his hands 9.75 inches, almost 10 inches. Not bad, perfectly workable. He only did one thing at the combine, but it was pretty impressive. He did 24 bench press reps, which was by far the most of any defensive lineman. And I think it was actually the most for any player of any kind at the combine. So Mazi Smith, I mean, he didn't show everything that he could do at the combine, but the one thing that he did show was very promising. Now the big boards. Most big boards have him going in the second round. All over the second round. PFF has him very early in the second. Tank has him in the earlier portions. ESPN has him late second, as does CBS. Sports Illustrated has him going mid-third, which at this point is kind of silly. The Draft Network has him going very early in the third, which at this point is also kind of silly. The aggregate website, and what DB is, this is NFL mock draft database, and they basically do an aggregate of all mock draft big boards of any significance out there. They currently have him at 40. I think that's a pretty realistic estimation. So right then and there, you look at that and you go, okay, if we have a pick at 37 overall, like we do, and he's projected to go 40, he is a prime potential target at number 37. Question is he the most prime option at number 37? Keeping in mind that this guy may very well move up. In fact, if I had to guess, I would say he might even gain a little bit of draft value over the coming weeks. We'll have to see, but it's possible. So over the last 2 years, I put up his last 2 year stats. Not that Mazi Smith is a big stat player, but he's played 28 games total the last 2 years, a lot of games. He's accumulated a pretty decent amount of tackles, 48 and 37, 2.5 tackles for loss. Not much of a pass rusher, only half a sack combined. But look at the collective yard per carry allowed by the Michigan defense over the last 2 years, average of about 3.5. So, Mazi Smith, let's talk about the things to like about him. He is the best run-stuffing nose tackle in this draft. His long arms, like I said, longer than expected. In fact, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later in this video, but he was not anticipated to have super long arms like this. He's very strong, which is something he showcased at the combine and something he showcased in college football. He's surprisingly effective at influencing run plays that go to the inside and the outside. This is not somebody who just sits in the middle and clogs up the A-gap runs. No, this is a guy who is going to pursue plays to the outside. This is somebody who's going to chase down running plays, and he's going to offer some value there as well. He has good effort. He has a high motor, as they say. He's big enough and strong enough to eat up multiple lanes in the running game. He's somebody who can absolutely take away multiple gaps for running backs because he is so big and so strong. He's got a very nice punch. It can generate some pretty massive knockback. And overall, this is a phenomenally talented run stuffer. And that is exactly what we need right now. But just because he's big, and yes, he is somewhat slow and a run stuffer, doesn't mean the kid doesn't move well. He can move pretty well laterally given the fact that he is 323 pounds. He's got good lateral movement for his size. He's somebody who can move up and down the line of scrimmage. He also can offer a little bit of a bull rush. I was watching some of his plays against like Ohio State and TCU. He's got a little bit of a bull rush. It's more likely to influence the play rather than it is for him to actually get the sack or, make the big tackle for loss. But he does have a bull rush. And when he gets an opportunity to make a play, he has surprisingly good closing speed. So Mazi Smith is a pretty purified 3-4 nose tackle in my estimation. The issues with him as a prospect, there are some. Sometimes he's a little slow off the snap, and that is definitely going to be a problem as he tries to develop into being a full-time NFL player. He's not somebody who gets out of his stance super quickly to blow past people that often. I saw a couple plays like against Maryland when I was looking at some of the tape, but mostly he's going to be slow off the snap. He's somebody who's not going to penetrate. He's somebody who's going to create penetration opportunities for others. Generally speaking, he doesn't have any pass rushing ability, and if he wants to become a 3-down player, he's going to have to develop that. And I do think it's fair to say he didn't showcase his great length when he was actually on the field. And what I mean by that is if you go back and look at his scouting reports from before the combine, they actually said his arms aren't that long. And then he went to the combine and his arms actually tested pretty long, so he needs to use it better. Nevertheless, though, my evaluation of Mazi Smith, and the reason why I'm spending this whole video just talking about Mazi Smith is because I think that this is such a vital player to look at for the Seahawks, is that he is the best run stuffer in this draft. He has a chance to immediately transform the Seahawks defense, and eventually he can become an every down player. Like, you look at his ability to move laterally, you look at his ability to chase down plays, you look at his ability to bull rush. There is the possibility here that he becomes an every down player. It won't happen in year one. Year one, you're going to play him in running down situations in all likelihood. I think you're going to see him be a 2-down player, as they call it. But there is some little bit of upside here. Not a lot, admittedly. But here's the thing. We need run stuffers, and Mazi Smith is a special run stuffer. If he never develops much of a pass rush and turns into like an Al Woods type player, I think that's totally fine and totally reasonable. I don't have a problem with spending a second-round pick on him, and that's my evaluation here. He is a prime second-round target for the Seattle Seahawks. I would happily spend that second-round pick on Mazi Smith at number 37. Honestly, the way things are going with him, you might be lucky to get him at 37. There's some smoke around the idea of him going in the first round. I don't know if I buy that, but maybe you could see him going at like the last pick of the first round to a team like Kansas City, and you could also see him go above our pick in the top of the second. But if he's there at 37, he is quite possibly my favorite potential pick at that range. He's right there with a couple other guys, and he should single-handedly make our run defense much better even as a rookie. I do believe that. So, Mazi Smith, big fan. There's some stuff to be a little bit concerned about, but most of it just has to do with him being a relatively one-dimensional player. And guess what? We need that dimension. So, love Mazi Smith. Would love to have him. And that's my take. Later today, I'll be taking a look at a couple of the other nose tackles who are likely to go in the top 100 picks of the draft or the top 3 rounds. But this video is just Mazi Smith. Bring him to me, and I'm feeling a lot better about the prospects of the Seattle Seahawks in 2023. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.